Ramana Maharshi's wisdom shines in talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. My comments help bring his profound wisdom into your experience. YouTube's closed captions are good. Turn them on and read along. This is the Sri Ramana Maharshi Satsang, a time to listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke, hosting this satsang. I'm one who loves this teaching and wants to share it. Sharing it with you helps me better understand Ramana's words, so thank you. I'm reviewing and commenting on the book Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. This week is from Talks 80. Let me get it on screen. And a very devoted and simple devotee had lost his only son, a child of 3 years. The next day, he arrived at the ashram with his family. The master spoke with reverence to them. Training of mind helps one to bear sorrows and bereavements with courage, but the loss of one's offspring is said to be the worst of all griefs. Grief exists only so long as one considers oneself to be a definite form. If the form is transcended, one will know that the one self is eternal. There is no death nor birth. That which is born is only the body. The body is a creation of the ego, but the ego is not ordinarily perceived without the body. It is always identified with the body. It is the thought which matters. Ramana goes on to say, if a man considers he is born, he cannot avoid the fear of death. Let him find out if he has been born or if the self has any birth. He will discover that the self always exists, that the body which is born resolves itself into thought, and that the emergence of thought is the root of all mischief. Find out wherefrom the thoughts emerge. Then you will abide in the ever-present inmost self and be free from the idea of birth or the fear of death. So here the devotee came to Ramana after his young son had died, and Ramana replied with respect, acknowledging their grief. He said, the loss of one's offspring is said to be the worst of all griefs. Ramana continued, though, with the teaching that, if followed, would relieve all grief forever. Ramana says the best release from grief is to investigate the one who grieves. He said, grief exists only so long as one considers oneself to be a definite form. If the form is transcended, one will know that the oneself is eternal. There is no death nor birth. Emotional loss comes from one form when another form goes away or is lost. Loss of someone or something loved brings grief. Ramana invites self-examination to determine if, in fact, we are a form. These are basic questions. What exists? Who exists? What does it mean to exist? And how do we know existence? Ramana challenges us right at the base of all our ideas. Examine even these. They're just ideas, just assumptions, usually never challenged. So, for you right now, what do you know for certain? What actually exists? For all of us, when we start to look at this, it starts with ourselves and the world around us. But when we get to the how do we know part, the investigation gets more complicated. When you examine how you know the world, you find it starts with your senses. But the senses themselves do not know. They just encode and send signals to the brain. The brain then interprets these sense inputs and constructs a mental world, a mental model of the world within the mind. This is the mental model we know, not the world itself. So, how do we know this mental model? Who knows? What knows? As you investigate this, you start to see that while everything is modeled within the mind and everything changes in this model, everything that you know of comes and goes. That also there is this knowing awareness that is always present, always there. Everything you perceive with the senses changes. Things and experiences come and go or go through changes, but the knower is always there and never changes. This knower never gets bigger, for example, when enthralled by something of the world, or smaller when you withdraw attention from the world. This knower is always present, always the same. As you learn to meditate and quiet your mind from all thoughts, you see that this knowing consciousness is still there. When all you see with your mind is the void is known by this same consciousness. This consciousness knows the waking state, the dream state, and even the deep sleep state. A deep understanding expressed by Ramana Maharshi and Advaita Vedanta, the teaching of non-duality. The ancient basis of this teaching is that consciousness is what is. It is fundamental to the universe. It is not created out of some inert matter that somehow is transformed and become conscious. Inert matter does not transform itself into conscious being. Consciousness is. It's not that consciousness pervades everything. Rather, it is that consciousness is everything. And it's not just consciousness, but also being. Consciousness and being are inseparable. Everywhere you find awareness, you also find existence. If there is no existence, where is there space for awareness? If there is no awareness, how is existence ever known? So Ramana says that consciousness and existence are what exists. They are what is real. All the things of the universe are transitory and temporary, while the consciousness and existence in which they appear is always there. Advaita Vedanta teaches that what is real must be always, that reality does not come and go. So, what is real? Is it the appearance, which is temporary, that is real? Or is it the always existent being and consciousness? In your investigation, this is something you have to know for yourself. This is not mental cognitive knowledge, but the kind of knowing that is like your knowledge of your own existence. It is self-evident. Ramana says that this knowing is more akin to feeling than thinking. All this Ramana expressed in just a few sentences. That's why people say he is terse, sparing of words. And Ramana goes on to say, if a man considers he is born, he cannot avoid the fear of death. The problem, the source of his suffering, is the belief that he is a body. He's never questioned this idea. Have you questioned it? Are you a body? Look right now and see. If you're a body, then you're born and will die. The death of the body is the source for much emotional turmoil and pain. The turmoil is from the fear of impending death. Someone you love is going away forever. The pain is from the apparent loss of loved one, like with the man here. Much internal power and freedom comes from asking the question, as Ramana encourages, are you a body? This is assumed as reality, and most of us never question it unless you take up Ramana's self-inquiry. Inquiring, you ask, the body changes. Do I change? The body is always known. Who is the knower? The body is born, changes, then dies. Do I? Ask yourself these questions and don't be satisfied with easy answers. The body changes, and you can find something within yourself that never changes, that is always, that does not come and go. So how can that be a changing body? How can I be a changing body? Sage Ribu in the Ribu Gita talks about the progression of this knowledge. First, it starts as an idea. As the idea is considered and reflected on and investigated, it starts to become a conviction. Conviction is as far as the mind can go. Deeper than conviction is certainty. This comes experientially. Liberation is by the certitude of the nature of the Absolute. This certitude is like the certitude with which you know that you exist. There is no doubt. This is your deepest experience. Inquiry and investigation is needed to verify this for yourself. The idea of existing as a body obscures the knowledge of the deeper reality that simply you exist and you know that you exist. You are the existence and the knowledge, not some transient thing. This is knowledge as being, not the mental knowledge about being, but knowledge as being. So, what exists? What is real? Who am I? And now we'll listen to my teacher, Nome, with a talk, Knowledge of Reality.
You, the Absolute Self, are the reality. The yearning to know what is real naturally shines forth from your own being, the reality, because of its illimitable bliss. In every experience, in every idea, there is the attempt to know that which is. But what actually is? It is not possible to know what is without taking into account the nature of the knower. Whatever be the definition of the knower, undoubtedly affects what is considered to be the known. So if the knower is considered, that is, yourself is considered, to be a body, to be the senses, then the world is considered to be what is. The world of phenomenal objects. If the definition of oneself is the mind, then whatever is conceived is also considered to be what is. Even the very idea that there is something whatever it may be, something objective, is determined by the sense of I. That is, the this aspect of your experience, in whatever way it may appear, gross, subtle, mental, is determined by identification as an I, an individual who can conceive or who can perceive. So to know what is real, to know the real existence as it is, you must know yourself first. And if yourself is known as it is, in its undifferentiated being, consciousness, bliss, without boundary, fathomless and unchanging, then is there anything else to be known? The oneness of your existence is forever unfractured, undifferentiated. Differentiation is merely a product of imagination. Ignorance makes that which is real appear as if unreal, so the Absolute Self does not seem apparent. And the same ignorance makes that which is unreal appear as real. And that is regarded as what is from the standpoint of delusion. To put an end to illusion, put an end to delusion. To put an end to delusion, seek the knowledge of yourself. If you treat the knowledge of yourself, or the self itself, as if it were an object apart from you, such is only a mental image. Rather, truly seek self-knowledge, inquiring as the Maharshi has taught, within yourself, in a non-objective manner, to find out, within yourself, the answer to the question, who am I? Examine your experience and see how what you regard as your identity goes into the very fabric of whatever you regard as existing. Thereby the existence itself is not known, even though it alone exists, and that which is unreal appears to be known, though it has no actual existence whatsoever. First and foremost, know yourself. Question yourself deeply. Who am I? Discard from your sense of identity that which is not truly yourself, what appears objectively, what is sporadic, that is, what is not eternal, and what has birth and death. Free from identification with the body, you can know that which truly is. Free from identification with the senses, no longer taking the senses to be the determinants of reality, you can know that which is. Free of the mind as the inconceivable is the realm of true knowledge, and with that knowledge you can know that which is. Free of the very notion of I, the falsely assumed sense of individuality, you can know the reality. And the you that knows is the reality, with no distinction, no difference, no particularization. One, infinite, eternal, being consciousness bliss. Brahman is. If you have the idea, I know it, inquire, who knows it? If you have the idea, I don't know it, inquire, who doesn't know it? If you have the idea, I know it but I do not know it, inquire into that one as well. And if you have any doubts about it, as Sri Bhagavan says, first doubt the doubter. Knowledge of the self, therefore, is that in which reality comprehends itself. No ego is involved in this. So ask yourself, who am I?
All right. And now we'll take a few minutes to inquire, and I'll lead you through this. Just notice that you exist, and you know that you exist without thinking about it or feeling it. You just know. And now investigate within yourself of what are you certain? What are you really certain of? And how do you know this? What within yourself is always? What does not come and go? Thoughts and ideas and experiences come and go. Objects of perception come and go. What is always? It's there right now. What do you know for sure, without a doubt? Who am I? What is the nature of my existence? I know I exist. What exists? All right. We'll close with a short chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. All right. Questions, comments, discussion?
There's nothing to be said.
That's saying the most, I think.
Well, I'll say a little less. I always go back to the experience of Raman in his youth when he had his death experience. And I kind of go through that for myself,
Yes,
to get a deep sense of it, because that was his experience. He understood what did not die
yes, yes.
very clearly. Mhm.
And certainly it was him uh, seeing directly for himself that he was not his body, that he was, he called it a current.
Mhm. Mhm.
But the current was not the body.
Right. And he never forgot.
Yes, yes.
He never ever
This,
thought otherwise.
yes, so this is never forgetting is this certain knowledge that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And also with Ramana, where he started in this experience when he was a teenager, was this questioning, am I a body? What dies? What does not die?
Yeah.
And somehow he was able to push through this in terms of his own experience to where he was certain of this current, he called it, that is always there, that doesn't die. The body dies, but not the current.
Yeah.
And again, somehow he knew it. And I know with my teacher, Nome, he knew it. He knew it so much that when we talked about his Parkinson's disease, he would laugh.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, this is another Ramana Maharshi story for Eric. At the end of his life, he had cancer in his arm. And uh, he didn't much care about it. All his devotees wanted doctors to come in and take care of him. And one came in and did an autopsy, or excuse me, a biopsy on his arm. And Ramana refused any anesthetic. He didn't want to be made unconscious. And afterwards, one of his devotees said, "Didn't your arm hurt?" And he said, "The body had pain. Am I my body?" And again, he meant it. Nome meant it. So the idea that people can think that and experience that is almost incomprehensible. But Ramana is one that I've read about. He meant it. Nome is one that I was with pretty much every week for 15 years. And I never saw, he meant it. And that has a big impact on me. And, I try to see for myself, my teacher thought this, felt this, was this. What an example for me. How do I figure this out for myself? How do I do it? So he really set a kind of direction that, I've tried to follow ever since.
Well, one of the advantages of getting old is to look at the body changing.
That's right.
You were in a much younger, less wrinkly body at one point, and observing the changes, who or what is changing and who's observing the changes. I'm not sure I'm ready for biopsies without anesthesia yet, but I can see that this body is not the same one I started with.
And yet still somehow in your oldest memory, there's something the same right now as in the oldest memory.
Yes.
It's not the body.
No.
Anyway, Eric, so this is the crazy stuff we talk about.
Thank you.
And
Very interesting.
okay. I'm glad you were able to listen to it with an open mind.
Oh, for sure. Did you say Fred was coming?
No, anyway, namaste, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you,
And
Richard.
thanks for joining us, Eric.
Namaste.
These videos help bring Ramana Maharshi's teachings into your direct experience. Subscribe now to help you deepen your understanding and practice to know the self. Just click the subscribe button.